Hello, people. So today I've got something pretty big for you, which is a preview, some details on Terraria Otherworld. You may or may not have already heard of it, and I'm not the first to cover it, but I've pulled together everything that I could on the new game, and I'm going to explain it as best as I can. So, first of all, Terraria Otherworld is not a sequel. It's more of a spin-off. You could even call it a semi-sequel, but it's said to be set in an alternate dimension within the Terraria universe. They do have other plans for Terraria too, which may or may not be coming later. But this is more to explore some different gameplay ideas and different gameplay mechanics. It hints at a darker tone, like the world is already corrupted in Terraria Otherworld, and you have to, kind of turn the tide, so to speak. They're intending to make each playthrough feel new and fresh, but also more compelling. So I'll get into the details on that. But first of all, it's not launching until it's complete. They're not doing an early access thing. They're not doing an alpha or beta, public alpha beta. They're releasing it as a finished product. In fact, it was originally planned for a 2015 launch. They obviously missed that. They're committed to launching it when it's done. Now, it's expected this is probably going to be fairly soon. We might find out more at GDC, Game Developers Conference 2016, since it was announced, after all, at GDC last year in 2015. So, first of all, it's coming to PC and Mac. It'll be on Steam, they've said, has been said. It's also coming to PS4 and Xbox One. They've now said that as well, and potentially they'll bring it to other platforms. As with the original Terraria, there are plans for content updates afterwards, but nothing solid at this point. They're focused, of course, on releasing the game first, and they've said that may depend on how the game is received, how well it sells, that kind of stuff. But there are some sort of plans there for releasing content. Obviously, they've released a ton of content for the original Terraria, and they've even said there might be more coming there. So now, as far as what's returning compared to the original Terraria, it's still a freely playable open world sandbox environment, but in this case, it's more structured. So there'll be goals and things like that. There are biomes that return from the original game: the Corruption, the Crimson, Snow, Underground. Those are some of the ones that have been shown. The basic mechanics will be very similar, but again, this is going to be a different game. Some of the same weapons, the magic, some of the items, the idea of ores and that kind of stuff. Those things will be there, although not necessarily exactly the same. So there will be some of the same weapons and the same items and those sorts of things, and a lot of similar ideas, but there's going to be a whole lot of new stuff as well. So what's new? First of all, it's a beautiful game. New improved graphics, as you can see. The sound is all new. There's a whole new soundtrack. It's in a brand new custom built engine, and they've built this to be more easily expanded so they can add more content more easily. And they've built it so it can be brought over to more platforms and more languages for localizations, all that kind of stuff. They've built that in ahead based on their experience. So as for what's new with the gameplay, there's an expanded story. Kind of with the original Terraria, the story was almost sort of implied, but here the story is more clearly explained and included. You're going to have characters. There's going to be maybe more introduction to what you're supposed to do when you get in the game. A lot of people start the original Terraria and then walk away from it because they don't know what they're supposed to do. There's a guide there and he'll tell you how to make stuff, but you really know what you're supposed to do, right? So that's going to be a little clearer now. It's said, and this is a quote actually. It's a life and death struggle to restore a once pristine world now overrun by a malevolent force that has corrupted nature itself to its original splendor. So there's a story arc going on here, but at the same time they're not tying you down. So the ultimate goal is to drive back the corruption, which begs the question: what about the Crimson? They've shown that the Crimson will also be in the game, but maybe it's the idea of just driving back the evil in general, or maybe those are different elements. Will they both be in the same world now? Who knows? We don't know that yet, but there will be expansions on the non-playable characters. Those characters will develop, have their own stories. They'll chat and interact with you, and they've said like you're part of a ragtag band of survivors. So what role those NPCs are going to play. They've even said that those NPCs will perceive you differently over time, whatever that means. I can't quite tell you that yet, but hopefully we'll find out soon. This game has more of a quest system, so you'll have more like objectives. There'll be goals to work towards. You're not forced to do specific things in a specific order, but it is more structured. It's not a set quest line. The quests will be apparently randomized and rearranged for each playthrough. So again, focusing on keeping each playthrough kind of new and fresh, so you can play through it multiple times and it doesn't feel like it's the exact same every time. They're really, again, here's a quote. They're striving to give the player as unique a story experience as possible with each and every playthrough. So, we don't have all the details yet, but hopefully it's going to be interesting to play it over and over again. There will be RPG elements like skill trees, upgrades to your character and weapons. They've said it's kind of a class style development, as you can talk about classes in the original Terraria, but it's not like a traditional RPG where you select a class and you're kind of stuck with it. It's more like the original Terraria as a base where you kind of develop yourself in a direction, but there's more to it now where your character will develop skills and experience. Well, they've said it's not like traditional RPGs where you go out and fight a bunch of monsters just for experience points. It's not like that, but your character will develop skills and your weapons will even develop. So they said at one point you can start out with like a crappy sword, but if you use it a lot, that sword as well as your own skill with the sword will upgrade, and that might end up being better than a sword that you would get later in the game, even though it wasn't inherently so because of the development. So let's see. There's also strategy elements. So those are the kind of main prongs here: RPG and strategy elements. The strategy elements are tower defense. So the basic idea is, again, the whole world starts out as corrupted, and you need to create purification towers to push back the evil. At the same time, when you create these towers that are fighting back the evil will be attracted to them and try to destroy them. So that's where tower defense comes in. Along with the purification towers, you will have war towers to defend them. The war towers will have to be in the vicinity of the purification towers, powered by them. There'll be tons of tower customization, upgrade items, that kind of stuff. So you'll be kind of creating this sort of tower defense around your purification towers to defend them. You'll have to, sometimes run to your towers to make sure that they're okay. They've said, if the enemies destroy it, you're not going to lose everything. You'll be able to rebuild, but the point is that obviously to complete your objectives, you're going to need to defend those towers. At the same time, they've said the AI has been upgraded, which means it won't be as easy in Terraria. How you construct your defenses around your tower, the AI will actually adapt to that, and that was in one of the interviews. Whereas in Terraria, you could build a little moat with some lava, and all the enemies would just fall in, and woohoo. Um, it's not going to be that easy this time. They're going to figure that out. They'll apparently build bridges, was mentioned, and they'll use more magic guys. They can fire through walls that you might build, all kinds of stuff. So that was hinted at in an interview. It's kind of sounds pretty cool, and it's going to be a challenge, definitely. Some of the new things that they're introducing in the little teasers so far, these are just smaller things, but things to kind of pique your interest. There's the swing grapple. So, you've got your grappling hooks in Terraria that will just pull you to the wall essentially, and you can, use multiple grapple points, but the swing grapple, you'll actually grapple to something and swing along. It's been shown in a particular teaser trailer as like a whole means of getting around essentially, where you'll, swing from point to point. There's also a dedicated slot to equip wings, so that's going to be, obviously core to it as well. And they've even shown a flamethrower, which looks like a lot of fun. So they'll be, those are just teasers. I'm sure they will have a ton of other stuff that they're not telling us yet. Another thing that's really new is the expanded crafting interface and expanded crafting in general. They've overhauled the crafting interface and they've shown a little bit of that. So there'll be like breakdowns and more navigation, and you can favorite some items apparently. There'll be new biomes along with the old ones returning. They've shown a space biome where you're kind of up on some meteors up in space. There's a core biome apparently, which is, going to be probably way underground. A crystal cave biome. There's new bosses. They've shown the Cry Mother is the one that they've shown so far. So that's going to be presumably in the Crimson. There's new items, new blocks, new ores, all kinds of stuff. One quote again. Actually, the vast majority of weapons and items will be unique. That was from an interview, but at the same time, there will be overlap and there'll be returning familiar things for those, who, of course, who know and love Terraria. So ultimately, the game is going to be familiar to Terraria fans, but at the same time, it's going to be a new experience, and that's how they've sort of described it. It's been described again as an alternate reality or what if scenario, similar but quite different. It's exploring different gameplay ideas, different themes, and a much larger budget. So that's, of course, the graphics and sound and all that stuff that they're doing with the engine. So it sounds very interesting to me. I'm really excited. I'm looking forward to covering it, and hopefully even be able to cover it, day one and that kind of thing. I am definitely planning on getting this game and covering it for you. So stick around, stay tuned. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.